I'm Jeffrey Culang. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the Institute for Historical Studies for the 2018-19 academic year. I earned my PhD in history from the CUNY Graduate Center in New York in 2017. And for the 2017-18 academic year, was a postdoctoral fellow at the Graduate Center. Next year, I'll be beginning as a Mellon Volkswagen Fellow with the Center for Modern Oriental Studies in Berlin. So this year I was primarily focused on my book manuscript, which is a history of secularism in Egypt from the late 19th century into the 1950s. So this is the British colonial period, beginning in 1882, and really extending until 1956, when, which is Nasser's revolution. We know it as Nasser's revolution, but also the formal end of the British occupation, which gradually wound down between the 1930s and the 1950s. So my project focuses on the rise of a centralized state in Egypt and the ways that it comes to manage its population. And I explore this through the legal realm by looking at a range of concepts and their translation and adaptation through time. Focused on the legal realm, I look at how these concepts are used by different kinds of actors in legal spaces, in political spaces, in everyday life. So the project is making three main interventions. Within Egyptian history, it's an attempt to rethink the history of the state. The Egyptian state, especially in the liberal period, when Egypt was governed by a parliamentary system in the 1920s through 1952, has typically been understood as a kind of weak, ineffective, and corrupt state. And I'm showing that one of the legacies of the colonial period was an emerging centralized state that actually was deceptively strong and capable of managing its population in different kinds of ways. And what I show is that the effects of this state was essentially the exclusion of certain kinds of populations, especially minority groups, from Egypt and the constitution of an Egyptian Muslim majority. More broadly, as this is one feature of a broader story of secularization in Egypt, I'm showing at a very granular level the ways in which secularism unfolded, and trying to argue that secularism, rather than bringing religious groups together in Egypt, actually introduced new kinds of divisions and produced a kind of the homogeneous society that we see in Egypt today, that's made up of principally a Muslim majority and a Coptic minority, whereas in the 19th century, Egypt was an extraordinarily diverse place. A second project I've been working on at the Institute is an edited volume on rethinking modern Egyptian history. And what it does is bring together a dynamic group of historians of modern Egypt to highlight some of the new sources, methods, and intellectual frameworks that they're using to rewrite, rethink, or bring new aspects of Egyptian history to light. The Institute has been a phenomenal home for the year. It's given me the opportunity to focus on my book manuscript and other projects, and a group of colleagues, centered in this space here at the Institute, who I've gotten to know and work together with, and also a network of scholars here at UT who have given me a lot of food for thought in terms of my project, and I've had some very useful engagements here at the Institute. Beyond that, UT has been a great place to work with all the incredible resources that the university brings to bear.